Hi and welcome to today's session. We will be focusing on imagining the future of digital sales, where we'll dive into the future landscape of digital sales and learn how you can take customer experience to the next level. My name is Charlotte Kirsch. I'm an engagement manager at Globant in the UK, and I will be your host for this webinar. For those of you who are not familiar with Globant, we're a digitally native company leading in cognitive innovation and digital transformation. Globant operates in 18 countries and has close to 22,000 passionate professionals worldwide. We partner with many leaders to help their organizations with their digital transformation journeys and to become future-centric. At Globant, we seek reinvention for the professional services industry. It's not just about tech and software, but also the human capabilities such as creativity and culture that are essential to successful organizations. So joining me today for the webinar, we have a selection of our expert Globers. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Pablo Monge. He's Global Head of Digital Sales. And secondly, we have Dean Parker, a consultant design partner. Hopefully you may have already seen or read some snippets from our Sentinel report, but absolutely no worries if you haven't, because that's what we'll be taking you through some of the key insights from the report today. And we will focus predominantly on the importance of creating a hyper-personalized digital journey. So hopefully you can see on the screen now, we have our agenda for the following hour. Firstly, we'll be setting the scene for future landscape of digital sales, which will be led by Pablo, followed by Dean, who will take us through the importance of creating personalized and customer-centric experiences. Finally, we'll then move into the challenges that different industries are facing in this new world, and we're all beginning to adapt to. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box, and we will get to those towards the end of the session. Perfect. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Pablo to get the webinar started.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Charlotte, and thanks everyone for joining today to this webinar. Today in the session, we will be covering the future landscape of digital sales. As you know, our Sentinel report is Globant. It's one of the most important Globant reports, and with a huge team of experts, we have been covering different topics around the marketing and advertising landscape, around the sales landscape, and of course around the technology landscape. So to start with a little bit of context, we are seeing that with today's technology, we can focus on improving communications and sales efforts. How we can do it? Basically by integrating and connecting technology with all the marketing and sales operations. With all of that, what we will achieve is a seamless customer experience. So imagine that we can have real-time analysis of our marketing activities. Imagine that we can have real-time analysis of the performance of our digital assets, of our digital channels, of the non-digital touch points as well. Imagine you can have the visibility of the performance that you are having in your digital campaigns. Imagine you can have the visibility of the amount of qualified leads that you are achieving. All of this is possible today thanks to the right technology. Creating truly seamless customer experience require brands and companies to consolidate their efforts, not only in online channels and online media, but in offline as well. It's really important to merge internal factors and internal areas of companies like IT, marketing, business operations, and so on. It's really, really important to make them work together. That way, we'll be able to connect all the data capabilities with all the technologies under collaborative models to achieve a really omni-channel communication methodology, because customers and consumers are expecting that interactions, are expecting that connection between the different channels, are expecting that great experience that our brand can give them. And it's really, really important to understand what pieces companies need, what pieces in terms of technology, in terms of data sources, in terms of skills, in order to put all of this in place and generate new experiences. How can we do it? Okay, we can do two specific things. We are seeing two specific things. When we need to connect and communicate with customers, we all experience sometimes a lack of personalization and sometimes a fragmentation between steps of customer journey. So in terms of lack of personalization, for example, how often you have filled your information online and then spoken to a sales agent who asked for the same data? A lot of times, for sure. Likewise, how often do brands recommend irrelevant products while you are shopping online for the 10th time that month? Or of course, they might already be analyzing your purchase history, your web searches, but maybe without the necessary data management, the necessary data capture, the technology integrations required to merge all the data and to understand better the customers. These types of scenarios will not change, and the customer journeys will continue to fragment. So it is really, really important to have the proper pieces of technology, the proper pieces of data, and not only having it, but connecting all that dots. Regarding the fragmented customer journeys, as you know, communication and channels are not seamlessly integrated sometimes. They are not integrated with real-time analysis, and organizations often outsource external marketing agencies to manage all that journeys. That creates new data silos and adds a lot of complexity in coordinating communication initiatives. So that's something we need to take into account. That led us to a really complex landscape. If we go to the next slide, we can see how complex this landscape is. We have a lot of pieces when it comes to generate a digital sales acceleration programs or a digital marketing strategy. We need to simplify this ecosystem to be efficient. We need to tackle this in a really different way. Within this highly complex ecosystem, a traditional marketing approach failed to provide the returns that companies are expecting, not only in the B2C space, but in the B2B space as well. And organizations need to structure really well how to manage all the capabilities in a single customer journey, because if not, we can generate a lot of fragmentation issues and we won't be able to unlock the full potential of a digital sales acceleration program. So the first reflection here, we need to build the proper ecosystem in terms of partners, in terms of capabilities, in terms of skills in the people at a company, and so on. Finally, if we go to the next slide, we can see that developing a digital sales acceleration program, of course, should be a priority for any company right now, not only for large multinational companies in different industries, but also for the small and medium business ecosystem. A digital sales acceleration program won't only increase profit, but also is beneficial for end users because it generates better experiences. So for that, what we need to do is, first of all, improve our communications across different channels, not only sales channels, but communication and marketing channels. We need to consolidate efforts, not only in the online media and in the online assets, but in the offline as well, in the physical spaces. And that's really important because we need to somehow merge the different data sources that are relevant for every channels. We need to develop new transformative initiatives, and we need to connect every dot. And when we say connect every dot, we mean connect the technology that you have in place in your company and connect the data sources that you have. Last but not least, when users demands hyper personalization and demands complete customer journeys, it is really important that all the stages of that customer journeys are integrated, from the operational processes and governance to the data sources, the tools, the technologies, and so on. And with that in mind, it will be the time to create that unique approach that provides a seamless experience for the whole customer journey. Before continuing, I would like to ask a question for you all. In which of these experiences do you feel personalization is more important? And a poll will be launched here in the Zoom webinar. Customer service, purchase tracking, personalized information, or omnichannel coherence. Please vote. Okay, so here we can see that customer service is one of the most important places or capabilities where personalization needs to take place. So basically, creating truly customer experience requires brands to consolidate their efforts in offline and online channels where merging internal factors like IT, marketing, sales, digitization, and business operation as much as possible. But they also require transformative initiatives like online and offline data integration, end-to-end sales, funnel tracking, contact center integration, and so on. So today here we have our colleague Dean. So he will deep dive in the next section about customer experience and customer centricity.
Thank you, Pablo. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar. I really hope you find it useful and interesting. So against this backdrop of a very fragmented customer journey and a lack of personalization, I'd like to use some examples to help illustrate how we've seen organizations facilitating these more personalized and customer-centric or seamless experiences. So to bring to life what they may look and feel like for customers, as well as how this can translate into improved sales performance. So let's start by setting out the 4 key enablers of customer-centric sales experiences. For us, the 4 key enablers are connected data, omni-channel media, integrated technology, and collaborative operating models. And we believe that they're all necessary for seamless, consistent, and meaningful interactions across both digital and physical channels. So over the following slides, I'm going to attempt to bring these enablers to life for you. I'm going to use the automotive industry as the example, not only because it's one that's close to my heart, given I've been working with a major global car manufacturer for over 3 years now, but also because it's a great example of a fairly traditional industry that must transform in order to attract and retain new customers, and that's against the backdrop of massive disruption within the industry. On top of that, margins are typically low, operating models are fairly complex. Interestingly, car brands are not that accustomed to having close relationships with the end consumer because dealerships have traditionally done this for them. And then, of course, there's an interesting blend of physical and digital channels across the sales journey. And despite this, you can see from the figures at the bottom that the business opportunity for getting this right is fairly significant. So let's look at the end-to-end process of shopping and owning a vehicle. As you can see, so the experience of shopping and owning a car is most often, it's a fairly long one. You know, can last typically for 4 to 5 years before people consider buying a new vehicle. But this gives car manufacturers many different types of sales opportunities, and some of them we'll explore over the coming slides. So if we just start with the first enabler, so this relates to omni-channel media and how it can help brands generate higher quality leads more quickly. So if we explore the consideration stage of the customer journey, the stage where they are exploring different brands and types of vehicle. And we start by considering some research insights which show us that potential customers who are considering buying a car, are usually overwhelmed by all the different options available to them. They're very confused by industry or technical jargon and what it means to them. They're very much looking for simple direction and guidance from brands. And they're still most likely to convert to a sale following a physical test drive. That is the key, the physical test drive. But more than anything, they need personalized support. And in many cases, one-to-one interactions with product experts, which is why the dealership experience is still incredibly important. The traditional customer experience you can see on this slide is fairly fragmented and takes a relatively long time to identify qualified leads. So for example, typically customers may explore social media for inspiration and reviews. They may, while they're there, be attracted to a brand website via digital advertising. They usually then have to go to, on that brand website, they'll explore different models and options, and then have to visit a dealer website to see what may be available to them locally, then can contact a call center to arrange a test drive. So only at that point really can brands qualify the leads properly. So if we now explore what an alternative approach may look like, and this is a very simple but effective example, it shows how a brand could, for example, on a social media platform such as Facebook, use the Facebook lead ad function to get potential leads to divulge information like the type of vehicle they're interested in, when they are thinking of purchasing one, when they're available for a test drive, and of course they can provide personal information and contact details. So all of this data enables a much quicker, easier test drive booking experience, as well as a more personalized test drive experience itself. As I said, it's a very simple but effective example of how brands can optimize their media spend across both online and offline channels. So let's move on to our second enabler. This relates to integrated technology and how it can help brands gain a much richer understanding of customer preferences and desires. So we're going to begin by looking at the test drive experience itself. And as you can see on the left, while this is nothing new, the ability to book a test drive online makes the process obviously much quicker and easier for customers. But as you can see on the right, we're now able, through technology and data sophistication, we're now able to explore other ways of using data to facilitate richer and more personalized experiences. So for example, we can enhance the online test drive booking journey by using the data that customers will have already entered when they've been configuring their vehicle online to indicate the exact type of car they'd like to drive. So, without needing to restate their preferences for an online booking form. Alternatively, we could connect the booking form to a real-time dealership stock system to show customers exactly what vehicles with what specifications are available at any given time across different local dealerships. Or we could even capture information relating to where they'd actually like to go on a test drive. We can set up the navigation system accordingly, and the sales consultant gets an insight into how the customer may want to use the car in their daily lives. Additionally, we can enhance the test drive experience itself by for example, passing data from the online configurator, the online booking form, customer databases to create a seamless check-in process once they arrive at the dealership. We can use the same data to run through specific vehicle features that match the individual lifestyles and needs of customers. Or finally, we could even go so far as using data from other sources to set up a personalized Spotify playlist that could match the customer's tastes or the route they are taking. So now we'll look at an example related to multi-channel customer preferences. And as you can see from this example, which is to do with a fairly simple car buying e-commerce journey, even within this scenario, there can be many different support channels available to the customer at each stage of their journey. So phone calls, online chat, video chat, face-to-face owner apps, and all of these channels are being put in place by car manufacturers now. But this, of course, means that we need to work incredibly hard to both integrate these channels in a seamless way. So, a typical example is so customers don't have to enter the same data twice or repeat previous conversations. But also we need to learn about their channel and engagement preferences, which no doubt can be different from person to person. So now we're going to move on to the third enabler. This relates to the concept of connected data and how it can help facilitate hyper-personalized experiences. So we're going to start exploring this from a technology perspective. Naturally, if you take something like Salesforce and the Salesforce suite, this can be an enabler for hyper-personalized experiences as long as we have unified customer 360 data models. But those data models are increasingly complex. So on the next slide, we're going to have a look at the different elements of a modern customer data and analytics ecosystem. I'm not expecting everyone to be able to read all of this detail, but hopefully it will prove a point. So, as you can see in the middle, beyond the different types of customer data typically readily available to brands, we have many other layers that help us provide richness that we need for hyper-personalization. So, for example, the different types of analytics that we can apply to the data, other types of data that help define events or triggers that may relate to different types of customers, as well as we've already discussed, a wide range of online and offline channels and touch points that provide additional opportunities for data integration. So now I'm going to quickly try to illustrate how this ecosystem can come together to create hyper-personalization through three different examples. The first one relates to the vehicle shopping point of sale. So in this case, it's fairly easy to imagine how we can combine both transactional and behavioral customer data. So the features that the customer explored before their final configuration. We can use predictive analytics. So what did similar types of customers typically go on to buy post vehicle purchase? Data captured during the test drive and dealership interaction. So what type of features, services has the customer previously indicated that they're interested in? And finally, data from online configurations and product or service selections, which show exactly what they bought and what can be added to their package. By doing this, we can deliver personalized recommendations for additional accessories or services at the point of sale based on previous behavior and interactions, as well as potentially, there's this big wait. You've ordered your vehicle, it needs to be made and delivered. So there's a huge wait, and we can use that time to help customers peruse different vehicle features that they may not understand or know how to use. So we could, for example, deliver learning modules at this time via the owner's mobile app based on their vehicle configuration and the different use of features during the test drive, for example. If we look at another example, we can imagine combining transactional, contextual customer data from their ownership experience, so location, purchase trends, descriptive analytics, so what's happened in the past, transactional triggers, i.e. retail spend for a holiday, as well as real-time information from the in-vehicle navigation system, so where they are going on their trip. And by doing this, we could deliver, for example, local contextual offers and rewards personalized to a specific journey that the customer is going on. So think of a notification sent to the vehicle or the owner's app offering cashback rewards or discounts for restaurants, parking, hotels when they're en route to their destination. And let's move to the final example. In this one, we could imagine a whole raft of customer and third-party data and analytics, including lifestyle events. So it could be, having a new child, Financial triggers such as the customer having made the final financing payment on their car. Could be about the driving behavior, how many miles they drive, or typical driving styles and routes, and data from servicing and maintenance events. So, typical wear and tear for this type of customer. From that, we can combine all of that data to provide, for example, personalized recommendations for the next best fit vehicle. So, based on your experience with this car, we believe that a different type of model or setup may be better for you in the future. So, now to move on to the fourth and final enabler, which is to do with collaborative operating models and how they can help align operations in a way that fosters seamless customer journeys. So we're going to start by looking at the need to consider handoffs between online and physical channels and touch points. And as you can see from this example, this slide illustrates the complexity of different online to offline and offline to online handoffs that need to be coordinated across multiple teams, business functions, across the vehicle shopping and owning experience. You'll see a lot of coordination that needs to happen between marketing, e-commerce, dealership, sales, finance, after sales, and customer servicing teams. And we found this idea of the concept of handoffs as a great way of helping to align functions and effort around a common goal of facilitating more seamless customer experiences. So our last example illustrates another way to drive collaboration. This example shows how, for example, online marketing and sales functions can enhance more upstream business operations. So we found, for example, that data from online vehicle configurations on a brand website is actually a much better predictor of customer demand for different vehicle types, features, packages than the traditional models used by product planning, product marketing functions of an automotive manufacturer. And the reason for this is simple, of course. Through the online configurator, the data and analytics can be done in near real time, as opposed to a very traditional quarterly or annual market studies traditionally carried out to try and assess intent and or interest and demand. Again, another great example of how silos between different teams can be eroded through the innovative use of customer data. So one final slide to summarize all of these examples. We believe that in order to drive more personalized and customer-centric experiences, organizations need to do four things. So firstly, not just implement new technologies, but also align people and processes. Seamless journeys, hopefully, as you've seen, are really not that simple to create. They also need to think about how they can enable multiple online and offline channels and touch points to work in harmony in order to reduce friction. And of course, consistency is now a core expectation of consumers and can easily damage brands if it's not in place. They also need to not just know who their customer is, of course, but also understand and respect the way they want or don't want to engage with the brand. And finally, they need visibility of where the customer is in their journey, as well as real-time analysis and action in relation to it. So I hope these examples have helped to bring the world of data-driven, personalized and customer-centric sales experiences to life. I'll hand back over to Pablo in a second to continue with the next chapter. But before I do that, I think we have another poll, which will try and get your feedback on some of these things we've discussed. So connected data comes first, 48%, followed by integrated technology and collaborative operating models. It's really interesting. I think that shows how most organizations are really struggling with connecting bits together, whether that's data or technology in a meaningful way. And maybe that's something we can come back to in the Q&A. But now I'm going to hand over to Pablo to continue with the next chapter.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, so now what we are going to do is to deep dive a little bit on how different industries are facing the digital sales challenge. So we are going to start with the financial services industry that is facing a lot of channels, a lot of challenges. Why? First of all, because they are competing with new digitally native companies like fintech companies. And basically that kind of companies are cropping up really fast. Some of their digital capabilities. The big tech companies are creating financial solutions as well, so that's a big challenge for traditional banks and insurance company, and they are testing and they are developing new customer engagement models. So to compete with that disruptive players, traditional financial services companies need to evolve and need to transform the way they are capturing new clients, the way they are engaging with their current clients, and so on. And that led us to the next point. While traditional banks have been good at gathering customer data, they're really good at understanding their clients because they know a lot of from their client. They often have little or no data from their prospects in the open markets. So their ability to formulate effective acquisition strategies is less powerful than to develop their current customer database. So it is really, really important to not only understand their current customers, but to have a really deep knowledge of the open market environment and understand their prospect and understand the new generations of customers that are coming. Meanwhile, new fintech firms, all that native digital companies are leveraging a lot these digital channels and these digital acquisition capabilities as their primary acquisition source, while positioning at the forefront of the hyper-personalization trend. So the new fintech companies understand really well the open market, understand really well the prospects, so they develop really powerful acquisition strategies, and they are gaining a lot of new clients. So as a result, they lead the way in providing that kind of new experiences, and that's really important. What is our recommendation from Globant to face all the challenges? Okay, so first of all, it is really important to think about the digital customer experience to enhance the capabilities that we have in digital channels and assets and the way we acquire new customers and we provide digital experiences to that new customers. So we need to increase digital interaction, but we can't forget the physical branches, the contact centers, and all that offline channels that still a lot of people use. Banks are under pressure to rethink their revenue drivers by working on their customer engagement models and their customer engagement strategy. So it is really important to prioritize digital channels, but not forget the traditional sales and engagement channels, the physical ones. Normally, the online and offline worlds are separate in traditional banks, and it is really important to start connecting experiences in that kind of physical spaces and in the digital channels. Banks may have normally a successful digital marketing campaigns or social media engagement, but normally when sales representatives in physical branches face a client, they are disconnected from what happened in that kind of online channel. So our recommendation is to integrate the digital customer experience, taking into account online and offline channels. And of course, for that purpose, we need to integrate technology. So we need to have an integrated CRM, customer relationship management tool, implemented in all the relevant spaces where we interact with the different users and the different clients. And that way we are able to have a lot of information from what users do, and we will enhance their experience, not only in digital channels, but in physical channels as well. If we jump to the next industry, our next industry will be hospitality, tourism, travel industry, really important industry and an industry that suffered a lot the latest events. Basically, what we see here as main challenges, first of all, uncertainty, of course, due to the pandemic and the latest events that we are facing worldwide. There is a lot of uncertainty about the future. Of course, another thing that is really related to that uncertainty is identity verification. People want to travel again, basically, but today travelers are constantly required to verify their identity. During the online sales process, at the airport, during the car rental, in the hotel, and through loyalty program. And COVID-19, of course, add the vaccination or testing status to the mix. So all that identity checkpoints increase a lot, creates a lot of friction, and the industry needs to react through technology and need to adopt more digital option to increase the efficiency of that identity management, so we can boost the customer engagement, and basically we can streamline all the process during that customer journey. We need to make things easier for people, for users, and of course digital channels are a great option here to provide better digital alternatives. So digital sales are it's not anything new for the industry. The travel industry has been using digital channels to acquire new customers, to sell a different set of products and services for a long time. But there is a huge opportunity to increase direct digital sales. And let me explain myself. A lot of companies like Expedia.com, lastminute.com, and some other OTAs are providing digital travel services on a mass scale for years, and basically are helping companies to generate a lot of indirect digital sales. But basically, there is a great opportunity for travel companies to continue selling in an indirect way, but to leverage their direct digital sales capabilities. If they prioritize direct digital sales through their own channels, through their own websites, own landing pages, own environments, they will be able to increase their margin, and they will be able to reduce the dependencies on third parties like lastminute.com, like booking.com, and so on. So one of our recommendations is to start prioritizing the direct relationships with their customers. And another recommendation regarding not only that direct sales need, but to the identity management need, is that all the marketing technology environment can enable digital identity capabilities. So once again, technology it's crucial here and help customers feel like it's a custom-made, non-invasive personalization, when basically what will be doing is to enhance different kind of processes and make their experience better when they need to fulfill a specific process, like the security at the airport, the identification at a car rental, in the hotel, and so on. So basically here, technology again plays a key role into delivering that kind of experiences. To deep dive in the rest of the industries, we will have Charlotte again with us. Charlotte.
Thanks, Pablo. So first of all, we're going to cover the energy sector, which is becoming more and more prevalent at the moment, given the current energy crisis, the price rising that I'm sure many of us are kind of facing ourselves as well. But this also has a big impact on the energy suppliers and, focusing on how they overcome those challenges with us as consumers. So customer loyalty is ultimately dwindling because priorities are changing on how people seek a new supplier in this current circumstance. As ever, price is continuing to be a huge factor, but the green index is becoming ever more important as well. A poll launched by Shell in November 2020 actually backfired on them, as they asked their Twitter followers one thing they could consider changing to help reduce emissions and sustainability. And the number one answer of the four proposed, with almost 45% of the votes, was renewable energy. So this just shows the importance that the green index, sustainability, renewable energy is playing in our decision-making process when we look to a new energy supplier, if our contracts need to be renewed or so on. If we also consider today's circumstances where most energy providers are placing their pricing in fairly similar ballparks, then ultimately we are all going to look to a new selection process to decide which provider to choose. If we had a selection between company A and company B, and the only difference, bar a few pence perhaps, is that the energy company A has one less molecule of CO2, then it's likely we will pick that company. Technological advances can support with addressing this, including playing a huge part in achieving sustainability goals, and it's something that we're definitely going to see a lot of in the coming months and years. Especially given with the aging workforce within the energy sector, there's a very strong opportunity to accelerate digitalization in order to drive cost efficiencies of those manual roles that could be automated through AI, machine learning, and this perhaps is more appropriate for the upstream part of the sector, but certainly could be effective in supporting digital sales and hyper-personalization. If we consider electric cars an example, the use of data through this could allow for more personalized renewal offerings to encourage EV drivers to remain on a specific fixed tariff. This, of course, is price driven, but given the current circumstance that we're all facing with price rises, the expectation of a result of potentially more price rising in coming months, then getting creative and renewal packages and offerings being much more personalized is going to be key to retaining customers or enticing new customers in. Along with the EV example, personalization and simplification to energy challenges is very important. The energy sector has one of the most diverse customer bases across the sector because everyone who is not a dependent has contact with an energy provider at some point in the year. The energy sector has so many offerings, packages, variables that are often a little confusing, and some don't really understand the difference between them and which would be the most beneficial for them to select. Addressing this through personalization, the use of data to understand the customer at hand in greater detail will only enhance those sales and the customer service experience. Generally, the technology advancements are starting to be available to the energy sector with the advancements of smart meters and so on. So it really is just a case of, enhancing and extrapolating information and data that is probably already there. It is just making best use of that. Additionally, this leaves the great opportunity for most modern technologies to be adopted. So if we consider what the metaverse could do for energy providers and the impact this could have on customer loyalty in the future. If we take all of the current digital twin technologies that are used regularly in industries today, combine them with AR, VR, gaming technology, and factor in our ways of working from home, then we could easily start to imagine a path for a virtual world within the energy sector. It could be a real-time digital twin representation of facilities where we want to wander around and speak to our once call center representatives in order to address latest concerns around price increase, failed smart meter reading, whatever the concern is. Now, fully appreciate this isn't going to happen tomorrow, but it's definitely something that we're all seeing more of and could be an expectation for future customer service. If I quickly swift on to the telecom sector, it's not too dissimilar to the energy sector either, having many years of operation, being very traditional, and perhaps not yet fully enter the digital transformations and adopt the most modern technologies that some sectors have done. There's a great opportunity for steps to be made from customer-facing aspects, which already have been done within this sector. If we look at mobile apps, chatbots, web applications, that all supports that digital sales channel and the capacity to engage with the customer on a more personalized level. However, the level of service is often not quite achieved through digital means like it may be if speaking with an individual. With changes in infrastructure and the transition from the previously loved ISDN landline service to the newly digitalized landline provision, which has to be completed in the next 3 years, then it does show the mindset shift from the telecom sector that they are, progressing and really looking for that next growth and enhancing the digital footprint. One of the main challenges that the telecom sector faces is the vast array of options that they offer. This, for many, is perhaps too many offers and options, and it makes it quite complex and difficult for them to decide which is the best value offer for them, especially as some of them are fairly similar to each other. It's often not explicitly clear what the differences are and why one would be preferable, especially perhaps to someone that, doesn't really get too involved in what their mobile phone contract may be. In addition, there is a known over-reliance on call centres for driving new business within the telecom sector. driving these sales purely from a digital footprint is something that telecoms aren't, 100% comfortable with yet. However, most individuals embarking on new contracts or upgrades will seek platforms online to find the best deal, the best offer, and then may, purchase online or will go into a shop to discuss further. This means there's a huge opportunity for the sector to maximize the digital trends of buying, even more so post-pandemic when we've all kind of had to look online for our purchases as well. And therefore, this allows us to really adopt that personalized digital experience that both Pablo and Dean have discussed for the telecom sector and to enhance that capacity for customers looking to purchase online. In-person stores, telephone sales, always going to be important, absolutely, just because of the generations and the individuals that, the telecom services are providing to. But with the complexity of offerings, it just makes it a little bit easier if we can enhance this with a digital, very clear-cut understanding of what the packages and the offerings are. The perfect combination will really be to embark towards that journey hand in hand with the in-person and telephone sales as well. So as a quick example, a telecoms provider in Spain is already utilising this technology, and it references what Dean was talking about with the Facebook lead ads. So they're seeing really phenomenal results, and the implementation of the advanced lead technology to maximise social media marketing and advertisements through the technology to focus on increased conversion for Facebook leads. This was completed through database enrichment, offline sources, hyper-personalisation of the lead being transferred to the call centre once converted from social media. This technology saw an increase in 35% of conversion of leads to regular non-digital marketing campaigns, and also allowed for a 5% decrease in cost per qualification because there was less effort required by people to commit to the conversion. And of course, the emphasis was put on that more personalized connection. So the call center was appropriately connected to that qualified lead rather than looking at cold calling, which is less effective. So overall, the themes discussed across all of the sectors, are fairly similar. Many industries are facing the same challenges and all seeking the ability to accelerate digital sales, customer personalization, and the optimization of existing tools and platforms to all come together to support the next phase of their digital sales and retention strategy. So this concludes our session today. All of our insights, our interview, our review of the Sentinel report. I hope you found the past 45 minutes or so interesting, insightful, and sparking a bit of food for thought. So I can see there are a few questions in the chat that we will start to address now, but please feel free to pop any more in throughout this. And if we don't get the opportunity to get to them all, then we're happy to pick up directly with you all after.
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. Let me pick up on one of them. There's some great questions there, and as Charlotte said, we don't have enough time really to answer them, but please reach out to us. We can talk them through in more detail beyond the session. The first one, which is really interesting, how NFTs and immaterial goods can be incorporated in tomorrow's commercial networks, especially in retail and high street. Great question. I'm not sure I'm best placed to be able to answer that fully. We at Globant do have a metaverse studio and an NFT practice who are much better versed than me in this stuff. But from what I do know, a lot of the times the NFTs and metaverse are being seen as augmenting the physical experience. So I'll give you a few examples. Football stadiums, football clubs are creating virtual stadiums. Within those stadiums, there'll be many virtual assets that can be purchased via NFTs. The important thing there is that you're effectively being more inclusive for a global audience because they can experience on match day, for example, through the virtual environment more than they could without it. I'll give you another example from the car industry. Specifically about NFTs. So one car manufacturer has, for a new car launch, has actually sold an NFT, and that NFT has its own unique virtual attributes, but you also get the physical car when you purchase the NFT. And then to flip that on its head, another example could be you could potentially motivate people to fully purchase their car online rather than doing it via a dealership by giving away an NFT version of the vehicle as part of the sale. So two examples there. Again, we can take that offline and talk in more detail if needed. Over to you, Pablo.
Thank you, Dean. So another cool question here, really great question from Catherine as well. Connected data and GDPR, really hot topic and really interesting topic. Are they walking hand in hand towards the seamless shopping experience for the customer? So there is a really interesting question here, because all the architectures and all the technology that we have been mentioning during this webinar should be sustainable. And what do we mean by sustainable? It means that it needs to comply with GDPR, and not only with GDPR, but with all the local data protection regulation and privacy restrictions that we can face in the different markets. How we can achieve this? Well, first of all, we need to put a consent management layer on top of all the technologies that we implement. That way, we'll be able to ask the user and ask the client if he or she wants to be tracked or not. That's a really important thing, because if the user does not want to be tracked, we won't track anything. We won't have any personal information. We won't have any sensitive information. We won't have any information at all. So we need to put consent management layer on top of all the technology that we implement in the marketing, advertising, and sales space. That's point number one. Point number two, users and clients are expecting something in exchange of their data. That something could be an experience, that something could be a reward, could be a voucher, could be any kind of reward that we can give them. If we give them a reward, they will give their data. And that's something we have been seeing in different analysis and different case studies and so on. So the important thing is, first of all, comply with the regulation with all that consent management layer. Second thing is provide the user an experience, a relevant experience, anything in exchange of its data. With a mix of that components, we'll be compliant with the regulations, and we'll continue tracking the relevant data from our users.
Pablo, just to pick up on a couple of other ones. There's quite a few questions around public sector. I don't think we have time to go into that now. More than happy again to take that offline. We have lots of experience working in the public sector for the likes of the Met Police and Transport for London. So if anybody wants to specifically talk about that, then please reach out to us. There's a question about how we can measure whether your customer journey is successful, which again is not an easy one to answer, but let me try based on my experiences. For me, there are three elements to how you judge the success of a customer journey. One is obviously related to commercial KPIs, and that could be any commercial KPI that you will use as part of your business. It could be increase the percentage of sales or whatever, attract more people, market share, etc., etc. But there are two other important ones that people, I believe, mostly forget. One is to do with levels of customer satisfaction, because that level of customer satisfaction will naturally lead to an increase in sales and lifetime value of the customer and improve retention. And also, the third one is brand differentiation. So by creating a customer journey that is seamless, represents the purpose of your brand, you can actually differentiate your brand from others and therefore attract more people to you and away from your customers. And I think those three elements need to be thought about in terms of judging the success of customer experience.
Yep. Thank you, Dean. I think we have time for one more question. I think there's a great question about technology, about if there is a need or not to have a unique CRM system and so on. Well, just to highlight here, the important thing is not technology in a standalone way, let's say. The important thing is the use cases and the business value that you will be finding in that technology. So our recommendation here is always think first about the use cases and the business value that you want to add with a specific piece of technology. And after that, select the technology. So think about the business value, think about the revenue that you will be getting from implementing a specific tool. Think about what do you want to do with that tool. What do you want to do is to personalize a specific experience in a website, in an app, in a landing page, or maybe personalize a physical experience or whatever. And after that, choose the best tool. That way, you will be able to run a specific use case and to understand if the tool is bringing value or not. And that will let you to decide if you need a unique CRM, if you need a digital analytics tool, if you need an ad server, or if you need a specific piece of technology, because the MarTech and AdTech landscape is huge. And because of that, you will need to think first about your business, and after that, about the tool that you require. And that being said, I think we ran out of time. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Charlotte. Thanks to the whole team of Tech UK for making this possible. And it was a pleasure for all of us.